the people, the 2010 case, when all of those illegals were wrapped up in the United States, that was the result of a human, basically the commander of this program in Russia was a turncoat and outed all of these spies, and he was exfiltrated, I think is the word that the spies use, just before these arrests went down in 2010, and still is living in the United States, despite several Russian efforts to kill him, essentially.
He's probably got a nice condo down in Boca. Get
I
the
think
vitamin
that's where he
D
lives, actually. I think he does. I think
you have to be kidding me.
He, in fact, does live in Florida, I think.
Of course he does. Everything crazy in the U.S. happens in Florida. It's a documented fact.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What a wild series of events. When you're talking to the espionage experts, what are their thoughts on the U.S. vetting system? Because again, this wasn't necessarily about Brazil. Brazil was the mechanism for them to derive identities, because a Brazilian passport is actually very powerful. I mean, not like powerful, but it opens up so much of the world and you can travel very freely.
It's like the American passport. You don't need a visa to go to a lot of countries.
So less about Brazil and more about the things that they can get from Brazil. And if they have that clean identity, I mean, where does that leave intelligence agencies like U.S. agencies doing everything they can, hopefully, to try to protect us from external threats, whether it's an attack or a human gathering of intelligence? How well equipped are we, if at all, to vet people out like that?
I think again, it's hard to prove a negative in these cases, and there could be some sort of high-ranking Pentagon official who's actually, a Russian plant. That person hasn't been discovered yet. I mean, I think the sort of consensus is that doing this kind of espionage has become increasingly difficult in the era of social media. If you don't have a legitimate seeming Instagram account going back decades at this point, you're automatically suspect, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have, if you don't have a LinkedIn showing sort of like some kind of career history, it's incredibly difficult, and overlay that with the fact that the real people behind these identities have these social media accounts that are findable. This guy, Sergei Cherkasov, had photos on an old social media account of him in his army uniform. This guy tried to pretend to be Russian, and the authorities pull that up and say, "Hey, buddy, here you are, at a Russian military base in your Russian military uniform. How are you trying to tell us that you've been Brazilian your whole life?"
Obviously, it was Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's incredibly hard. There's a great divide in the intelligence world between those who still believe in the necessity of human intelligence and developing human sources to gain information, and those who think that that is a big waste of time and all the real useful intelligence comes from signals intelligence, breaking into and listening in on what is going on, sometimes at the upper levels of your enemy's leadership. I think what I have been able to glean about U.S. capabilities in this regard is that the CIA, the NSA, and particularly the NSA, is often seemingly sitting in on sort of meetings of top Russian generals, sort of listening in. And if you can do that from an office in Washington, D.C. or Virginia or wherever, why do you need to go through all the trouble of recruiting sources? That said, every intelligence person, whether sort of a practitioner of signals intelligence or human intelligence, I talk to, says that nobody kind of has been able to penetrate kind of the inner sanctum, Putin's inner sanctum. Sort of nobody really knows. We can glean sort of from the outside what might be happening on the inside, but that inner sanctum, which consists of not 10 guys, right, who were loyal only to Putin. Um, Nobody really knows what's going on in there. And you can imagine a situation in which one of those people close to Putin started talking, um,
Yeah.
and that would be invaluable. It's not my job to weigh in on these debates. I don't have a really good read. The intelligence leading up to the war in Ukraine was very, very good, from the United States. It was, the intelligence community in the United States was really shitty at assessing the efficacy of the Russian military, which sort of collapsed upon invasion. The assessment was that they were going to roll into Kyiv in 3 days, but they were very, very good about being able to predict the um, the start of the war. They knew the day it was going to start, well in advance, and how it was going to go, well in advance. And I have gotten different assessments about what was sort of the key to that. I'm sure it was a bunch of intelligence all coming in, but I've had some people tell me no, it was primarily signals intelligence that allowed us to make that assessment, and others who have said no, there was indeed a human source that was helping the United States, but how key he was to that sort of intelligence before the war is unclear.
You don't want to back away from that. I fight on always.
Scene 101A, take 3.
If you're prepared for the worst case scenarios, those worst case scenarios are gonna be manageable.
I got out because we weren't at war. We're at war. I'm going back.
I want to quit like anybody else. I just have the mentality I don't.
I thought I knew what pain was up until that moment.
Accuracy is by far the most important thing.
This community aided in who I am. It gave me family.
Don't fail it's everything. It's a way of life.
All right, action.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, and only because I hadn't heard this term, it was the Blue Notice, the Interpol Blue Notice, and how this actually probably does lock down these particular individuals back in Russia and prevents them from ever being able to do at least espionage of any kind, likely, or maybe even leave Russia from this point forward.
Yeah, it's a relatively new tool by Interpol, and I should sort of preface by saying that the sort of Interpol was used and abused in this case. Interpol is not meant to be used in espionage cases. It's sort of a policing organization designed to go after criminals, but countries sort of abuse Interpol all the time. Russia is accused of abusing Interpol all the time and using what are called red notices, which is their notice for arrest to go after opponents who are living abroad and crossing borders. But what these blue notices do, they're a little bit more subtle. It's just a warning to police offices around the world, people in countries that are members of Interpol, to be on the lookout for these individuals. These are some shady individuals. You should keep an eye out in case they enter your country. In practice, what this did, and this is very crafty on the part of the Brazilians, who in fact were only able to arrest one of these spies, it sent the names and photographs of these Russian spies to every police force on the planet, so that their names and photographs were known to police forces, to customs services, so that at any time that these individuals might want to enter a country, they would be, it would set off some kind of alarm.
Yeah, in the age of biometrics, you're talking about these people live in a deep cover. If you're exposed in that way, I mean, I travel frequently, and man, you're first off, you're on camera 100% of the time. Anytime you even approach an airport now, and I mean, many of these customs, you just look at the camera, and coming back into the U.S., they're like, "Oh yeah, you can hold on to your passport, just look at the camera." I'm like, "Oh wow, your data." I guess you could wear a mask. I'm sure there's some way you could disguise yourself, but I mean, it is getting harder and harder and harder. And maybe that does lend towards the argument that this type of espionage is less effective in this modern era. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it's a counter game constantly of something new comes out, they do something else, something new comes out. But
Yeah, I enter the U.S. on this global entry program, and I don't even show my passport. The camera takes my picture as I walk into the airport. The guy sitting at a desk knows exactly who I am as I approach him, and he waves me through.
Yeah, just like, hey, see ya.
With that kind of technology, it's hard. In the old days of sort of romanticized Cold War espionage, you could have multiple passports, put on a fake nose and a hat, and slip across.
I don't think that's
borders.
cutting it anymore.
And yeah, that doesn't work this day and age.
How'd you get onto this particular subject?